All right, rock and roll.
Yeah, we were just talking about just let's just carry on that theme real quick because I don't want to forget it, which is just the educational system that recapitulates the actual process it was necessary to get these ideas into people's heads, like to get them to do it. Like you couldn't have people do calculus, and you needed people to do it, and you had to do that by training them and all this arithmetic and all this other stuff. And like saying, we just keep doing that, but we don't have people doing calculus.
Well, it's worse than that. We don't have to teach it in that order anymore.
No, but of course, but I was saying that's my point. The only reason you have to teach them that order is because those were the tools. You had to learn how to manipulate this tool, and then that was a prerequisite for the next tool. And the point is, people don't use the final tool at all. Like that, all this training was for. So
But
it's the whole thing is just.
the example we were just mentioning is arithmetic happened to be invented before calculus, and so in school we teach it before, and we wait till high school to teach calculus. And there's not really any particular reason to do that, especially with computers. This is something Wolfram, Stephen, and in particular his brother Conrad talk about a lot, is that you can, with a computer, you can completely restructure that traditional curriculum. We don't have to recapitulate the history of mathematics
Yeah,
and
I'm
science.
thinking now. It's like not maybe it's not even the history so much as like this is literally the curriculum. Like this is how you make a person who's able to do calculus. But the kind of calculus that you had to do was just kind of hand. Basically you had to do calculus by hand. And that's the only way you could do it. And so you had to learn all of the other stuff in order to do that by hand. And by the time you were done, you had people, who could do that stuff. But we don't even need. It's sort of like the horse and buggies. Like we could train people first in whatever elementary, certain kind of, I guess, ironsmithing or something. I don't know, whatever kind of tools you need in order to get to be somebody who's really good at let's say, fixing a horse and buggy. That's probably pretty similar to cars, I guess, or something. But you know what I'm saying? It's like these were all prereqs for this final product, but we don't really have that final product anymore.
It's funny, when the state of North Carolina first began issuing driver's licenses for automobiles, you first had to show that you could work a team of horses.
Right. Exactly.
Because the idea was that your car was going to break down at some point, and then you're going to have to rely on the horses. So you're going to need to know how they work.
And you need to. It's like there was a time period where that was the case. Like you had to do that, and then it just gets stuck. It gets stuck in the curriculum because there's something about education. Something's wacky. Something's very sticky about education or something. For some reason, because it's very suboptimal. Like, what the hell are we doing? Why are we drilling kids on long division? What are we doing?
What would be interesting is if there was sort of like a cap on the time that you could be, say, an elementary school teacher, right? That you could have that job for a maximum of 5 years. Because one of the things that just came to mind is when you think of like a good elementary school teacher, a lot of times they're in their 60s, right? They're like pushing retirement age, right? So you have this lack of turnover. In other words, they're teaching the same thing that was literally taught 30 years ago, and when they were in teaching school. And guess what? What they learned in teaching school, that teacher learned 30 years ago. So you have now you're 60 years back. And so it takes a long time for things to kind of percolate into the curriculum because you have those kind of jumps.
Once your education is 40 years out of date, then it may as well be 100 years out of date. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. And that was true 40 years ago, and now it's
exactly.
Now it's
exactly.
I mean,
yes.
the incredibly progressive curriculum that we were teaching just a few years ago in deep learning and how to set up a GPU and get a data set. Oh, that's completely obsolete now compared to learning how agents are operating at scale and MCP.
Server. Yeah, no, it's true. I know, but in some, I guess it's a testament to sort of the model. Like we did capture a moment where we were teaching stuff that was extraordinarily relevant, and people learned it, like that they could have taken it to the bank, and some of them did. And so, in other words, the model is it's possible to like teach what's actually relevant, but
the system really didn't. It's interesting how the system didn't really tolerate that for that long. In a sense, kind of the immune system of the academic enterprise, and I think this would have happened anywhere.
Well,
was like, oh, that was neat, but guess what? We need to teach.
Because academic systems don't care at all about education. Like they straight up don't. And as you've said many times, it's like, and they're literally just extraction systems for federal dollars, and they only care about that. That is their lifeblood. Tuition's nice, but everybody needs the degree, so they're not the customers you're trying to please are barely the students, and you're certainly, even if you're trying to not trying to give them a progressive education that they may not even realize how valuable it is. Like, that's the last thing a university wants to do. You know what I'm saying? Even though that's the only really valuable thing you could do educationally, like in theory, you could do that, it could be spectacular, but it's like, it's really outside the reward system of these institutions. They're not rewarded by it.
They have to either have some other financial mechanism or have sort of the courage to do things that kind of don't make sense in the short term.
But that's what I'm
right?
saying. They're institutionally can't be courageous. There is no, like, you have to. It's not the individuals in the institution. They're just a cell. There's this, right? They're neurons. The brain of this thing it's constitutionally incapable of courage of that sort. It's not what it's built to do. Courage is educational. It's not built to do that. It just won't. It's like you can ask a cow to do calculus, but it just won't.
And it's kind of like what we were joking about a while back, or it's not really that funny. But the idea that if you're taking sort of remedial math classes in college, it's like, sort of, why, right? You're not. It's almost like it's explaining a joke. If you don't already get it, if you're not interested in math.
But
Now, not everybody needs to do math. I don't think every human needs to be involved in mathematics. With various small people should. I don't even know if I can even recommend it. But
frankly, if they're doing it in college, like, you have to wonder if, like, anybody should be doing it. I mean, you do have to wonder that. I mean, it's, instead of just learning how to do it the way people actually do it in the real world.
In the real world,
like,
right.
I'm not. Yeah. And that's it. Like, why aren't we just teaching people? Like, why aren't we doing that? That's just so obvious.
Mathematics,
it's like laughably obvious. It feels stupid.
Mathematics began to be mechanized in the ancient world, and then really took off progress a few hundred years ago. And in the last 100 years, just an absolute explosion of switching mathematics from the chalkboard to machinery. But that very concept is not described anywhere. Not in the engineering school, certainly not in the mathematics department, and it's probably the most important thing that humanity has done.
Right. And yet, let's pretend it didn't happen. The hell, it's bizarre. Anyway, I wanted to share something with you. I was thinking about. So I was thinking about animals. So animals have a conscience too. And what the fuck is a conscience? So here's what a conscience is. A conscience is it's just a reinforcement learning thing where, and it's Pavlov and all this shit. It's like, if you associate, create association between, like, some behavior you do and something physically painful, say, then as you approach sort of that, there's a continuum, and as you sort of mentally approach towards doing that thing, you will feel that pain.
Yes, there's a mental field. There's a mental field, yeah. You're creating rallies.
It's not even a mental field. It's a real field. Like, it twists your muscles up. It gives you pain, true pain.
It's as real as your other pain, right? We think, like,
it's as real as your other pain, exactly.
Like, our skin is real. It's like the thing that's,
and we're like, you're worried. But I never quite got it. Like operant conditioning, and I don't think it's usually explained this way. Like, they don't go all the way to say that. There's an association, and therefore you stay away from it. But here's the mechanism. Like, I always thought the mechanism, and somehow in my mind was like, but you're worried, you're scared, you're going to get hurt, so you don't do it. No. It hurts to start doing it.
That's just the Q value. We have action values. We have state action values.
State action values, right? And you get the reward, the reinforcement. It happens. It's not that you think it's going to happen. It's not because you're avoiding it. It's because happening. It is happening. Okay, so here's
just real quick. The idea that it's, like, sort of not real, that, like, but when you touch the hot stove, that's real. It's like, no. The thing that's talking right now has no access to that hot stove either.
That's true. Wait, the thing that's talking now is no. Okay, so here's the and it's related to stuff we've talked about. You always used to talk about how, like, in relation to, like, parasites and stuff, that they can't manipulate. They can't tell the ant, go up on the hill. Like, they can't reprogram the ant to do that. There has to be some sort of simpler mechanisms that are already there in place, and then they get their hands on it. So this is how language works.
They just grab the steering wheel. There's already a steering wheel. They just have to grab it.
There's already a steering wheel. And so this is where language is this wacky thing. It does it too. It grabs the steering wheel. That's like, how does language, and so it makes you feel bad about doing things that you're not supposed to do. It works. It creates it's the same steering wheel as like the dog, as a dog being trained by a person or even by its mother. A dog will touch something, like, I don't know, like something prickly, okay, and it'll learn not to do that because it'll feel the pain even before it does it. But then it does something it's not supposed to do, and the mom nips it, and that works too. And we have these cultural generations for hundreds of thousands, millions of years of like mothers sort of training their offspring, right, and or whatever, and then not just mothers, like other kin or even like strangers, whatever. You can't do that to me, other dog, and they nip you or whatever the hell it is. You know what I'm saying? They train you, like this system of training works, that you get that association and you feel it, and then language comes along, and you can do this arbitrarily. It's this wild, crazy thing that you can say, oh, you're going to feel pain for this.
Because here's what you're able to do with the language. You can build virtual machines. And with those virtual machines, you can construct fences and electrify them and make cattle prods and do anything you want to kind of steer things around.
But it only works because they can get their hands on this pre-existing, hijacking this pre-existing sort of self-reinforcement system, whatever you want to call it. It's not even reinforcement. It's like, that's not the right word. It's like basic association, but it's like, it's just zap, right? It's like, ouch, I'm not doing that. It's a freaking electric fence. Like that's what they do is they're learning. When you go there, you get zapped, and then you get zapped before you go there, but they're feeling zapped before you go there.
And they're both very real and completely arbitrary, right? So something I was thinking about just this afternoon.
Language is completely arbitrary.
But I mean sort of these structures that we build at like the societal level. So something I was thinking about just this afternoon is sort of think about like anybody in the modern world, the things they're like concerned about. Oh, my phone is low on battery, and I gotta check my online accounts and all that. Now go to somebody who lives a very primitive life and try to explain to them those problems.
Exactly.
It wouldn't even make any sense.
What about my career and my responsibilities? And I mean, what are you?
What about your H score?
These are virtual. These are right. Your H score, exactly. Well said. Your H score, right? So try explaining to a grade 8 what an H score is. Even if they know sense,
or even if you could get them to understand what you're talking about. Now tell them it's important, that it matters.
Exactly. And the answer is it doesn't. And that's the other thing. And so that was like this more abstract sort of thought I had, which is like, oh my God, like, wow, is this language system? It's not just, it has to be built on civilization that like reinforces it. It's wild. Like you have to know what mattering means. It's not only linguistic, it's sort of like what language helps build it, but there's this whole freaking system that's very abstract. It's its own virtual machine. That's society. And people are gonna, reward you or not reward you, and you're gonna get money and all of this stuff. It's like, oh my God, this is quite an abstraction that actually we run a model like this. We run a model, whatever you want to call it. It somehow does. It's still a Twitter the same way, like for like just misbehaving and it's like they have it there and we have it for like H scores. It's crazy.
100%. This is why I was arguing that language, when we think about sort of the evolutionary and developmental trajectory of language itself, we can't really look at sort of the primates in the trees or whatever. I think we have to look at the city-states. I think we have to look at these civilizations that came later.
That's the point, exactly.
You really have to have a swarm, because if you have like family units, even multiple family units, you can be kind of nonverbal, right? You get synchronized at such a high degree, you don't really need this sophisticated language system. But if you're in a marketplace, if you're in a marketplace with 5,000 people, that's completely different.
That's what Babel's about, obviously.
Exactly.
It's the city-state. It's exactly what it is. And you needed a new thing to run a city-state. And it was different kind of light, and it wasn't signals, it wasn't sounds, warning sounds or things like that. It was this whole crazy abstraction, because you need an operating system that says, no, sir, this is how you have this role in society, and your role is accomplished by the following, what to anybody, non-linguistic would look like the most bizarre tasks. And you're going to get into you get up every day and you're going to go to this place and you're going to scribble on these things and you're going to punch.
But I think it's more just like, think about like a marketplace, and say you have a dozen stalls selling foods and wares and things like that, right? Now imagine 1,200 stalls. Like you can't do the same like point and gesture and and hold up your barter chicken or whatever it is. No, now you have to have a completely different set of logistics.
Right. Yeah, so there's sort of an interesting, right? And you can ask yourself, is there sort of minimum complexity of a society where you suddenly need to go into abstraction, like abstract language or something like that? Maybe that happens. Maybe it just happens by virtue. I don't know. I'm still very suspicious about all of it. Who's calling me? Oh, okay. This is about my dog. Hold on.
Yeah, this is great. I got to run myself. Let's continue soon.
All right. Okay. Let's
Awesome stuff.